Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Dash Radio on their Nothing But Net channel every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. You're going to hear from the host of our Post Up 5R show tonight. Of course, Greg and I are the hosts of Before Floor. That's an hour before every Heat game. Brady joins us there with Jonathan, Ricky, and others. Also, check out 5reasonsports.com for the latest takeaways from Brady, Hawk, and others, not just on the Miami Heat, but also on the other teams in town. And check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Look, if you live in South Florida, you know water damage, that's a definite possibility. Fire damage, that happens everywhere. Mold damage, that too. You got to find a reputable, fully licensed and insured and certified contractor. Water Cleanup of Florida, here for you 24 hours a day. When a disaster strikes in your home or business, you need specialized, fast, and reliable services. Water Cleanup of Florida understands the impact and stress that an unexpected disaster may cause. They got over 60 years of combined experience. Michael, Robert, and the team, they're also huge Miami Heat fans. Udonis Haslam, photos all over the warehouse. They're also third-generation contractors in South Florida, so they want to maintain their sterling reputation, make the cleanup and insurance claim process as painless and hassle-free as possible. So reach out to Water Cleanup of Florida. Again, that's watercleanupflorida.com. They're the only contractor you need. They'll handle everything for you. Michael can be contacted on his personal cell phone. That's 954-579-0356. You can send him emojis too. Don't tell him I told you that. Michael Greenstein, I never know. 954-579-0356. And it's watercleanupflorida.com. If you've got the schmutz,
they got the guts.
And now, today's episode.
Down the bitch gang. Yeah. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the flow playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. I've got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. And as mentioned earlier, I've got the host of Post Up 5R. You can find him at Royal A. Shepherd on Twitter. And again, you can find him on Post Up after every single Heat game, or almost every single Heat game. We took a couple off lately, but he'll be back for the playoffs. Royal, of course, as the host of Post Up, he runs a group that includes Gad Cartagena, who's been on here with us as well, Jonathan Romlikan, Brian Young, and many others. Kendall, you find all of them on Post Up 5R. Here's what we're going to do today, okay? We have a little bit of an echo chamber here. Greg and Alex and I have done, 200 pods this season, and we kind of cover the same topics. But sometimes we need another voice here. So I'm going to introduce some narratives that have been going around the network, Twitter, national media this year, and we're just going to all have at it. All right. So I've not introduced them in advance. I'm just going to go with this right now. Okay. I'm going to give a statement that has been taken to be true by some. Okay. This is not just me bringing it out of thin air. This is not a straw man stuff. But again, it may not be the majority of Heat fans, but it's enough that it's gotten in the space. All right, so I'm going to start with this one because this is Royal's favorite. If you're not aware, Royal has one jersey he holds dearest to his heart, and it's a number 14. So we're going to start here with Tyler Herro. He's holding it up. We're going to go with this one. The Miami Heat, to get to where they need to go, need a 3-level scorer that's better than Tyler Herro is right now. Royal, go.
I told you I wasn't going to do this, but that's fucking unfair, Ethan. Because right now, you do this to me as soon as they fall on the easy side of the bracket so that they have a clear avenue to the finals. If they would have fell on the other side of that bracket, then I would have been yes, absolutely, they need one. But considering the way that the chips are falling for them, going for the 1 seed, being rewarded for that by falling on the side of this bracket that should produce a relatively easy track to the finals, I think if they see any team outside of Phoenix come to the finals, they should win that series. So yes, they could absolutely win a title with Tyler Herro as their best 3-level scorer. But I hate you for putting me in a position to have to say that.
I appreciate that I brought out the hatred so early in the episode, but I'm going to go with one follow-up here before I throw it over to Greg. Okay. If they were to fall short in, say, the Eastern Conference Finals, which is something we're going to get into now, because I think you and I think all of us on the pod have sort of set that as the bar now. Now that the bracket's set up the way it did, that I think we all agree it would be a disappointment if they don't at least reach the Eastern Conference Finals. I think we're in agreement on that.
And lose
okay.
to the Sixers.
Well, I understand that. Right. That's the same thing. Okay. So with that being said, Royal, if that's the case, if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose, okay, do you think that an upgrade in terms of having their as a number one primary scorer on this team, and we'll get into Jimmy in a second, will be required in the offseason?
For sure. I think that's just the natural progression of things. You're going to need a guy that's able to take over the offense for longer stretches of the game. And you're going to have to use whatever pieces you have necessary in order to get that guy. You said we're going to get to Jimmy next, but that's the guy who I'm looking at in terms of, like, this is your season. Like, so if you don't bring me a chip here, and we go out sad in the Eastern Conference Finals, because going out in the Eastern Conference Finals isn't necessarily a disappointment. It's how you go out in the Eastern Conference Finals. If you go out in the Eastern Conference Finals in a competitive series against either Boston or Milwaukee, then there's no shame in that. But if you get swept, then somebody has got to go. And we got to get somebody in here who can help us in terms of being the lead dog on the offensive end of the ball.
Greg, I'll go to you on this. We've had many discussions about Tyler and kind of where he's at. I think we're all in agreement on this also, at least on 5 on the Floor, that this has been the best development this season in terms of the step that Tyler's taken. But is it enough if they go out in the Eastern Conference Finals, and let's say that a Donovan Mitchell is out there and that Tyler Herro is the lead piece that you need to get something like that done, as we're all sort of expecting Utah to implode, if not in the first round, then definitely in the second round?
I mean, if they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's absolutely plausible. I think that, like, anyone that would deny that is lying to themselves to some degree. Although, I mean, there is arguments to be made that Tyler Herro is progressing at a rate with which he'll arrive at an age where he is pretty much what some of these guys already are now, and these guys are going down. So I guess where I'm going with this is that Donovan Mitchell, absolutely. Bradley Beal, to me, does not move the needle to the degree that they need to actually get over the hump. So why sacrifice a young Tyler Herro, one of the top, 18, 17 players under 25 in the league, in my opinion, for, a nominal increase in Bradley Beal. So a Donovan Mitchell, that's one conversation. A lot of these other names that we float around when we get transaction happy, that's where I start to deviate from the crowd.
All right, we're going to go to number 2, and I'm going to let Alex weigh in here with Royal on this one. So I said I'd get to Jimmy Butler. So let's get to this. This has been a common sentiment on Twitter. Okay. And again, some of this is outside of South Florida, but sometimes inside, that you cannot win a championship with Jimmy Butler as your best player. Royal, do you agree with that?
No, I do not. Again, prior to Miami falling on this side of the bracket, I did not. But I see a clear path to Miami getting to the finals and winning it. And I believe Jimmy Butler can lead the way this season. Matchups considering. But it's like, if we have to make that argument, can he really, though? Like, it's like, how confident am I in him beating the Bucks as the lead guy? I'm not very. I saw him get outscored by Brent Forbes last year. Like, can he lead us against Phoenix? I don't believe so. So, I mean, the question comes in, but yes, if the things fall right, then Jimmy Butler can be the best player on the team, win the championship, but they have to break right, though. But I guess that's the case for any championship team.
Can I sneak something in here? Just
yes,
real
go
quick.
ahead.
I'm barging in. I'm Leroy Jenkins on this thing. So, you asked me the question about the upgrade in the offseason, and I think Royal alluded to there's so many variables that go on in a playoff series, et cetera, like for context, and it would be how they went out, right? It's not just that they go up, but how. Wouldn't the question have to be raised at some degree if they go out and Jimmy is struggling against the Bucks again, and that's how they go out? Will a question become, is Jimmy a piece that you are that the organization would be open-minded to moving? Am I crazy by even posing that question?
Well, I think, and
Right
I'm going to flip it to, I'm going to flip it to Alex here. I mean, I don't think you're crazy by posing the question. I think that the circumstances would have to be so extreme for that to actually happen that I don't know that it's worth a lot of time to consider. I mean, the first thing, we addressed this yesterday, the ridiculous rumor that Jimmy Butler is going to ask out if things don't go well. That there's no, I mean, cold day in hell. Okay. That's not happening. Okay. Jimmy's not asking out. They're not forcing him out. None of that crap is true. That's just clickbait. Okay. And it's clickbait from what was kind of a poorly written story that then was aggregated even more poorly and then aggregated even more after that. But I do think that obviously if we're going to talk about, if you have an extreme failure, a loss in the first round to a Charlotte or Atlanta or a Cleveland, that's a different conversation, okay, than the one we're having, which I think all of us are assuming minimum second round. And then, that you likely beat Philadelphia or Toronto and you get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I'll go to you on this, Alex. We have seen over recent years that you need a top 10 player to win a championship most of the time, right? Like you need, there's a few, outliers from that. We talk about a couple of Pistons teams, et cetera. But you need a guy who's playing at a top 10 level. So I ask again, do you believe in the narrative that you can't win a championship with Jimmy Butler as your best player?
No, but I do understand why people are hesitant to think that this team can win a title with Jimmy Butler. Like, it's fine. I get that opinion, but I just don't happen to believe it myself. Like, I think it has less to do with Jimmy himself, just because I kind of know where his game's going to be at. And I think he's shown that he can step it up in the playoffs when he has, enough help on the team and the right team around him. And so I think it's less to do about Jimmy Butler and more of my confidence in the rest of the team and what they're about, what they can do on the court, that it feels like they can go. And this just kind of what I've reverted back to since the start of the season. You go at every single matchup and it feels like they can compete with every single one of these teams in a long, hard playoff. I don't think any of these matchups would be an easy series at all for any contender that you throw out there. And I honestly believe that. I just think that what the Heat are capable of defensively, the amount of weapons that they now have offensively compared to last season, I just think it's on a different level now. And so that confidence makes me worry less about Jimmy, because the numbers have pretty much been the same more or less throughout these few regular seasons. And I think that obviously the huge difference was what happened in the 2020 playoffs versus last playoffs. So, maybe he's not going to be finals Jimmy, because they're not going to rely on him to be that guy to just create stuff all the time. But I do think, I do believe in Jimmy to just be this high-level player. I think wherever you have him ranked, he's right around top 10. And I get it. And this is why I get that opinion that people have. He's not this guaranteed top 10 player that everybody, agrees on. People notice that he doesn't have a reliable jump shot. Everybody points that out. So I think, when you look at those things, it's hard to look at him and be like, yeah, he could be your number one scorer. But I think the things he's really good at are the things he's really good at. They've done it before, and now they have the proper team around him to optimize his game. And I just think, they have enough. Now, I'm not guaranteeing they'll make it, but they have enough.
Roy,
sure. Can I kick him a little bit? Yes,
can
go
I
ahead.
kick him a little bit? So that sounds to me like you're more confident in the team's depth than you are in Jimmy Butler as the best player. And that's kind of where
I don't know why it has to be one or the other.
It's not about it being one or the other, but the question is not about can Jimmy Butler be the best player on this team and win a championship. It's can Jimmy Butler be the best player on the team? If you remove him, does the situation have to be perfect for Jimmy Butler to be the best player on the best team? Because
relatively. That's why he's in Miami. That's why he landed here, because everywhere else can't manage his ass, but Miami, it fits. So I think there's some,
but he couldn't be the best player on any other team outside of Miami. And is that
he's
more
in Orlando? They win 35 games.
Is that a testament to the team that Miami built, the organization of Miami, or is that
we know he's not? We know he's not a Giannis or a KD or that type of elite talent. So that feels like we already know all that.
But let me ask you this, Roy. Let me flip this back at you. The 2014 Spurs. Who was the best player on that team at that time? Kawhi?
No, not really. It depended on the night. From night to night, it was a different person. Some nights,
but I think that's the point. I think the point is that if you have sort of I think you've kind of said it. If you have kind of a perfect collective, right, then he can be the best of a lot of very good players. Like, but you have to have almost a perfect collective. It has to be a 2014 Spurs. It has to be a 2004 Pistons, right? It has to be that type of team. It's not going to be the 2016 Cavs, right? Or even the 2019 Raptors. Kawhi was a top 10 player at that point.
But even then, like when you do that, then you can pretty much put that for any elite or almost elite player in the NBA. You can say the same thing for Paul George. You can say the same thing for Kawhi Leonard. You can say the same thing for a lot of very good, but not great. Huh?
Yeah, Kawhi did it.
Except
you can say it for Zach LaVine or something. Yeah, you can say it for Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan. You can say it for a lot of guys. Like if I gave them everything, you know what I mean? They could be the best player on the championship team. And so that means is it really that special to say yes that Jimmy Butler can be the best player on the championship team at that point?
Well, I saw a stat a couple of years ago, or not a stat, but just it was somebody making an assertion about this. They really stuck out. There was like a 25-year period where there were only like 7 players who were the best player on a championship team, right? It was Duncan, it was Kobe, and you could argue Shaq for the Kobe teams. Dwayne, LeBron. I mean, you're really talking about a very, very small subset, again, except with these exceptions, which is what, the Heat are trying to be the 2014 Spurs, okay, or the 2004 Pistons instead of the 2015 Hawks. Like that's what I was at Dolphins camp today, and there's a couple of guys who follow the NBA, but they're not like hugely into the Heat. And they're like, aren't the Heat a little like the 2015 Hawks? And if they get bounced in the second round or go out feebly, that's a comparison that's going to be made. I think Jimmy's better than anybody who was on the 2015 Hawks.
Myself for making that comparison whenever I did.
But you did, but you're not the only one. All right, I do want to. We're going to get to Bam next. Okay, we've got 3 more narratives to get to with Royal, Alex, and Greg. Before we do, I want to tell you about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, our friends over at PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5 FIVE. The site's back up, the app's back up, so don't worry about it. You can play everything. Of course, you can play the NBA, but you can also play MLB, NHL, MMA. They got NASCAR. They've got everything on there, and you can combine from different sports. So you're not limited to just one sport. You can play 2, 3, 4, 5 players together. You can also play the power play or the flex play, depending on how much you want to risk. If you use the code 5 FIVE, you get up to $100 match. So you put down 100, they will give you 100, and you don't need to play it all at once. So go to prizepicks.com, use the code 5 FIVE, and we want to mention our product code also 5RSN. That's for therapistpreferred.com. That's the gummies, the tincture, the sports cream for recovery, for sleep. Go to therapistpreferred.com, use the code 5RSN. You get 25% off. Again, it's therapistpreferred.com, 5RSN, prizepicks.com, FIVE. All right, let's get to another one here. For the Heat to reach their ceiling and for him to ultimately be worth what the Heat have invested in him, Bam Adebayo needs to become an aggressive offensive force. Royal.
No. Bam Adebayo, I'm a Bam Adebayo stan of sorts. Bam Adebayo doesn't have to grow a single inch of his game. He is the best defender in the NBA, and I will not move off of that rock. He's the best defender, the best defensive player that we've ever had. I'm sorry, Alonzo. I love you, but Bam is a better defender than you. He does so many things other than scoring that you can build around someone like that, and you can find scoring anywhere. We found it in Tyler Herro. We find it in Max Strus. It's so many different ways to generate points, but it's not very many ways to replicate what Bam does on the defensive end. So if his game never grows another inch, although we would love it to, if his game never grows another inch, he's already worth the money that we paid him.
Alex, edit in everything Royal just said in place of my spot right here, because I agree with everything he just said. Point blank, period. Moving on.
Alex, I'll give you a minute.
I mean, it's true. Like, I don't even need a minute for that. Like, I couldn't agree more with what Royal said. I still, like, we're all hard on him because we see those flashes that he can be better. And so I think that's why we have those expectations. It's like kind of that tough love stuff, because you can just do it here from our computer screens. Like, bam, go in there and post up. Go in there and beat Kevin Garnett like you say you are. And it's happening gradually. I get it. It can be a little frustrating. But And I get frustrated with too. Like I've spoken with my own frustrations with Spo. As much as I think he's the best coach in the league and all that, and I don't know anything, it feels like there's times where they can still run more offense for him. But I agree with everything like they're saying. What he is right now is really one of one, because other guys are not like that in the league. He's an absolute cheat code, and really what Royal said.
I think people get confused about like what my actual takes are because they watch me after every game, and my job is to talk about that game. So if Bam is not aggressive enough that game, I'm going to talk about him not being aggressive enough that game. I'm going to curse him out, do my little song and dance, and get on about my business. But holistically, I've seen too many games. I watch every game. So I've seen too many games of Bam not scoring at the level that we would like, yet completely controlling the game. So that kind of like the people who want to, have him become a 25, 28 point per game scorer in order to validate his contract, they don't make sense to me. Like, he's enough right now.
All right, we're going to get to what I'm going to call number 4. I'm going to call it the hot take Harry themed narrative here. There's a few of these. Harry's going to get upset at me when he runs into me at Sistrunk Marketplace again, but it is what it is. So I'll go to this one. Royal, you can start here. And again, not to pick on a particular player, but the Duncan Robinson contract, affected the Heat negatively this year, because that is a common opinion that's out there. And B, is proof that the Heat, after what happened, especially in 2016 and 2017, should not take care of their own players to any significant degree when they can replicate those players another way. I'm not going to go to Harry's third, which is that you should trade all of them for a second round pick. I'll just go with the first two. Okay.
Okay. So, no, his contract is not bad for Miami. I think his contract was signed so that he can be traded. Duncan Robinson, the contract is an A+. Duncan Robinson, the basketball player, is an F. Like that's where I am. Like he's not useful at what he was tasked to do for this team. So I don't care about his contract at all. Like, we're going to trade it one way or the other. So that is where the value is in it. So I wish they could have paid him more money to be like this. Like, I don't really care about his contract as much as some other people. I do understand the concern with it though. Like, if you're paying someone to be a high level role player, then you expect them to produce as a high level role player. And he has not done that this season. So, I mean, look, I'm cool with the contract as long as it's traded. If it's not traded, then I'll have a problem with it if we get to year 3 of it.
Greg?
I think it's the beauty of the way the deal was structured is that it's just the right salary that it can be tradable. Nobody is like going to be like, oh my gosh, we got to swallow that deal like a Son Whiteside contract or a Russell Westbrook contract. It's not like that. And if there's one skill that there's lots of teams that I think really, really could use and could talk themselves into, watch enough highlights, watch enough film to think maybe we can revive some of this. And all I say when I say all that about reviving his shot, he actually kind of, from a percentage perspective, picked up a lot of points that maybe he was losing earlier in the year. And he's shooting above league average, right? So like, I don't know, but this is where I'm going with this, is that the beauty of his contract is that a shooter is going to be able to be easily moved. So if they decide that they need to, get a better player in the front court or whatever it may be, it's just a logical piece. So,
Alex, you've always been the counter on this, so I'll let you go.
You knew to come to me, and you were right to come to me here, Ethan, because look, man, I agree with what you guys were saying about Duncan being the most tradable asset there is. It's been like the worst kept secret. Everybody knows that Andy Ellisberg and them know what they're doing when it comes to that very extremely tradable contract. I disagree that he sucks or whatever. Like, I still think, I agree that he doesn't play as like the 4th best player on the team. Like, that's 1,000% agreed on, but he's still good at what he does, man. Like, I think just because he's not starting anymore, those numbers with him as a starter were still very good all season, just like they have been for the past 3 seasons. They've been in the top 3 in shooting percentage all season. They've been, in the top half, mostly in the top 10 for most of the season in offensive rating. And not that that's all Duncan, but I'm just saying he provides a lot of benefits to the team, all the stuff that he provides to other guys, getting easy scoring stuff, things that we talked about all season. I just feel like, we gotta balance it out with Duncan a little bit, man. Like,
Toledo, he was not meant or brought in here to be very good at his skill set. He was meant to be elite, and he has not been that.
He's been at 40% since December.
Oh, man. My God. Quit with the overall 40% thing. He was at like 12% earlier.
Quit with the data.
Quit with your statistics. I don't care about your goddamn numbers. I care about what I've seen. Where has the impact been with that 40%? It has not been there.
I just told you the impact was there with their numbers as a 5-man unit being great throughout the entire season.
We're talking about
so.
You talk about
Two things.
units.
They were
Two
the
things.
1 seed with all these guys missing over like that. It's been a good team throughout different units. And all I'm saying
that is not because of Duncan Robinson, Alex Toledo.
Oh, he's a part of
Spo made the lineup change. So the proof is in what has actually transpired, right? So like ultimately he's still, yes, the team was going to be good regardless because the team is well constructed, and Duncan, didn't shoot. I mean, 37% on 8 attempts is not, he wasn't like in the 29% range where you can't play him, except there were some games that he got played off the floor. I just think ultimately what has Spo decided? And I think Spo knows more than all we do, right?
Well, it wasn't just Spo either. It was Spo in consultation with his veterans. So
more or less the same minutes. So it's like, I think all of this has been a little bit overplayed where Max and Duncan are getting more or less the same role, except now it's reversed. And now we act like Duncan has been completely benched or something. And when he's in there, he's still impacting the team. Like, I just don't think there is actually anything that points to him not being an impactful player other than the month of November that we're all remembering more than the rest of the season.
Well, especially at home.
Consistently in the rotation in the playoffs. Like, is he still going to be in there?
Well, I think he is at the start, Royal. I don't know if he will be at the finish. That's the thing. Well, let me ask you this question before we flip it, because I got a general team question to ask for our fifth narrative. If Max Strus, let's say they've got some time with Max, okay? He's got 2 more years. They signed another of these brilliant contracts where they don't have to pay him yet. They have some time to decide. If Max is at this level or slightly improved from here in 2 years, do you pay him again like you did Duncan? Do you just keep recycling these guys but then paying them? Or do you say to Max, you know what, we're just going to find another one in 2 years?
I pay him and trade his ass too. Like, just be honest, like just keep doing it. Like, if it works.
To Royal's point, though, likely will also be a slight market correction for a guy that gets overpaid like that. And the Heat will be able to point to Duncan Robinson in that regard to get the salary down a bit, provided that the cap doesn't explode. But here's the other thing. Max Strus can do other things that Duncan Robinson can't do. So the more alley-oops Max Strus catches from half court from Kyle Lowry, like that stuff that is it's the other stuff. And I'm not saying alley-oops like that's the big thing, but I mean like just doing other things on the floor, being
athletically.
That way.
Athletically, they're different. I don't think there's any question about that. I think you can argue maybe Duncan's better positionally as a defender at this point, but Max is able to make up for things with athletic ability, whereas Duncan can't. All right. Royal beat Alex so soundly there that Alex's computer shut down. So he's going to be back with us in a second. We'll go to our last narrative. But before we do, I want to tell you about one more sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Our friends over at U-Brake Wheel Fix, the wheel repair, refinish, and custom wheel specialist. They offer the big 3 of all your car wheel needs with over 20 years of experience. U-Brake Wheel Fix, that's with a U, the letter U at the front, repairs damaged wheels from curb rash, cracks, or bends, all under one roof with in-house powder coating, CNC machining, and polishing. They also offer the new custom wheels with all your favorite brands and no credit check financing up to $5,000 for a new set of wheels. Fast turnaround times on all repairs. They even provide the loaner wheels in many cases. U-Brake Wheel Fix. They're currently located in North Miami off Biscayne and Northeast 146th Street. It's Biscayne and Northeast 146th. They're moving to a bigger facility soon, but catch them while we're there. We'll give you the details as soon as they move to the new spot. 305-748-0112. That's 305-748-0112. ubrakewheelfix.com, or check them out on Instagram, Facebook by that same name, U-Brake Wheel Fix, changing the way that you see wheels. Reach out to Mark and everybody down there. Make sure to tell them 5 Reasons sent you for a discount. All right, Alex is back. His computer has survived. His takes have survived. We're going to go to the last one here because this is the preeminent one going around today, and I want to handle this because it's mostly the national media. This is not from Heat fans, but we've even talked about this on 5 on the Floor. Royal, in your view, and I know you say this is setting up for them, I get it, okay, but just generally, bracket, no bracket, are the Miami Heat, in your view, a soft number 1 seed?
No. I think Miami has earned this 1 seed like the hardest way possible to earn it, like with your main guys being out, having to rely on your depth. I think relying on depth is a hard way to become a top seeded team in the East, as opposed to just relying on superstars. You have to rely on a lot of guys. So that meant that it took several people within the organization to make it work. It took the star players, it took the coaching, being able to figure out how to make guys who weren't expecting big roles to like fit and still be successful in those roles. So no, they're not a soft 1 seed because they are the deepest team in the Eastern Conference for sure. Like they have a litany of guys that they can go through and just pluck off the bench and be a pain in your ass the entire series. So any team is going to have a tough time with Miami in the playoffs, and that makes them a legitimate 1 seed because they've done the work to become one.
Alex, I'll let you go first on this one because I know what Greg's answer is going to be. Alex, go ahead.
I mean, look, I agree. Like, I think if you want to look at them as soft, that's not talking about their game. It's probably talking about, we were talking about earlier, just not having that type of elite superstar level talent that everybody wants to look at. And I feel like we've kind of been driving that point home because obviously there was the possibility of having to play the Nets in the first round, other teams being taken more seriously as contenders in the East than Miami. And we had this as a topic a few weeks ago, I believe, as far as the Heat being a soft number one. If other teams want to think that, let them go ahead. It's better for the Heat. I think they play better when they have a chip on their shoulder. I hope they hear this. I hope that they hear that they're being talked about as this like fake number one, or that teams would want to play them, because I just don't see why. And I know that they feel the same way. Like, this is a team that's going to be absolute hell to play against if you're on the offensive side of the ball. And then on defense, you got to account for a bunch of shooters, 4 really good players. Like, it's just a lot going on. Obviously, not to mention, having the best coach in the league. It's not a team you want to play against. They're not a soft number one.
I bring this up today, Greg, for a couple of reasons. One, The Ringer talked about it on their pod again. This seems to be a consistent thing with The Ringer and The Athletic in particular. I mean, ESPN just ignores them. The Ringer and The Athletic just tend to take shots at them. And also that the Heat, they've heard it. Like, it was clear today by some of the responses, whether it was from Haslam or Herro or others, that they know that people are not taking them particularly seriously. We never would have called the big three a soft number one. And yet I can argue that the team in 2013-14, even though they were coming off 2 championships, that was a soft number one. That team didn't defend the whole damn year. I said this when I was on with Alex Dono today. I walked in that locker room, in San Antonio after they got beat, and they knew they were getting beat. Okay. I mean, their only chance to win that series was the air conditioner not going off. And honestly, even if it hadn't, even if Popovich hadn't pulled that prank, they still probably would have lost that series anyway. But when I walked in there, the first thing Shane Battier said to us was, I knew we weren't winning a championship this year because we weren't top 10 in defensive rating. This team is. I mean, I don't know how you call a team soft, a soft number one when they're, 12th in offense, but they're top 5 in defense. And, that team was a soft number one because that team had to play Tony Douglas as a starter at times. That team had to roll off Michael Beasley. I know, I'm sorry, Alex, off the bench. Okay. In the deciding game, that team had no depth. Rashard Lewis was way past his prime. Like, this is a better team. LeBron James notwithstanding, I think this is a better overall team than the last year of the big 3 teams.
I hope this video gets posted because Royal shaking.
I know he shook his head, but I was there every minute with that team.
Because I feel him. Because any team with 6-3-1, like, are we really going to do the thing?
You crazy? Like, you got your rabbit ass mind, Ethan Skolnick, and I will not be a part of this. No,
I'm with Ethan on this one.
But I will say that that team needed a retool, to Ethan's point. Like, so we can acknowledge that portion of it, but the top heavy.
They started Tony Douglas for a significant portion of the season,
as well as LeBron and Raymond James.
I understand that, but also, I mean, you had Dwayne, like, literally, like, this was before Dwayne got the miracle treatment. Yep. Okay. And all of a sudden back in 15-16, Dwayne he was back to being a semblance of himself.
This is true.
That Dwayne was better than this Kyle. That Wade was better than this Kyle.
Oh, I thought you said Jimmy. I was about to say, hold on.
No. Kyle
this is an interesting road we're going down, but
yeah.
No, Greg, I'm gonna let Royal jump in here. Was that Dwayne? And everyone knows how I feel about Dwayne. Was that Dwayne who was in and out of the lineup all year, who wasn't particularly efficient, who had horrible collective numbers with LeBron, okay, to the point that Spo told me he didn't even want to play them together anymore because their on-off numbers were terrible when they were together. Was that Dwayne Wade more dynamic than this Tyler Herro? I feel like we should end here with Royal. Yes or no? 2014 Dwayne Wade.
First of all, me and Dwayne Wade share a birthday. I just wanted to put that out here on this pod because he might listen to it. Dwayne Wade, we have the same birthday. I will never in my life pick Tyler Herro over Dwayne Wade. Yes, Dwayne was the better player, top to bottom. I don't care, in and out of the lineup. No way in hell you're going to make me say that Tyler Herro was ever at any point in his career better than Dwayne Wade was in that year. No.
about Cleveland, Dwayne?
Peep the counting stats from Dwayne. 32 minutes, 21.5 points, 47% field goal shooting, 3.5 rebounds, 4.8 assists. Like, it's just like, and that's
Tyler's numbers are better. Tyler's numbers are better. The counting, if you go by the counting stats, they're better.
Is Tyler at 21?
It's close.
Tyler averages 21.
It's close, but
come on, way more possessions.
But listen, the playoffs tell.
LeBron James either.
This when we're talking about this team being a soft 1 seed, the playoffs tell.
The playoffs tell. All right, let's finish there. Alex, yes, go.
You want to talk about this conversation right here? Like, that was an easy path to the finals, man. That 2014 team that had to go through the Pacers, who almost collapsed on themselves in back-to-back rounds. That's an easy path to the finals. No, they did. I'm already over this whole easy path thing because I get that the Heat dodged the good part of the bracket, but like getting the Cavs in the first round if Jared Allen's back, that's a pretty damn tough AFC. You get the Sixers or something in the second round. You get the Bucks in the conference finals.
Back in the shape. That's not.
Whoa. I'm saying as an AFC compared to like the Nikola Vucevic Magic usually get as the AFC. So
that 2014 team, Royal, that 2014 team in the first round played a team that was sunk when Al Jefferson got plantar fasciitis. And I remember we were trying to make that a series, and Al walked into the arena, and literally he had 2 people helping him into the arena. Al Jefferson. Okay, that's what we were talking about in 2014. That team had an easy path, man.
Too.
Who was their second round opponent that year?
Was it the Nets?
Oh yeah, it was easy path.
85-year-old Kevin Garnett, 90-year-old Paul Pierce.
I barely remember that series.
You will not ruin the greatest 4 years of my fandom with your slander, Ethan J. Skolnick. I would not tolerate it. I looked through those years with rose-colored glasses. It was tough every year. We struggled, but we were the best team in the league.
Tony Douglas, Royal. Tony Douglas. This team is better than that team. That's it. No more. Royal A. Shepherd, find him on Post Up 5R. Tyler Herro this year was better than that. Dwayne Wade. I'm sorry, Dwayne. You know how I feel about you. Royal Greg. Thanks to our sponsors, therapistpreferred.com, prizepicks.com, You Break Wheel Fix, Water Cleanup, Florida.com. Have a good night, everybody. We're going to continue this after.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.